Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and I'm glad to be back. It's been a few weeks since I've been able to post a new YouTube video. Some things have been happening behind the scenes here that are actually all very, very good things. And the only drawback is they've taken up a lot of my time. So it's just time I would have devoted to making more videos over the last few weeks. But here I'm back, and I'm happy to talk about some of my favorite topics. Today, it's electricity and solar panels. So I want to talk about, this is kind of a follow-up to a video I made just a few weeks ago about this right here, the Anker 535 power station. So this is a 500 watt-hour battery pack with outputs built in here for USB, for 12 volt like if you were plugging into a car, and also AC power through an inverter here. And that's all self-contained, along with a charge controller, so you can plug this in to solar panels if you have them, or you could just use the charger that came with it that you just plug into the wall like you would any other normal electronic device to charge this up. And once you charge it up, you get about 500 watt hours. So that means, simple math, if you're running something that uses 100 watts, you could run it for 5 hours. If you were using something that only uses 50 watts, you could run it for 10 hours, all the way up to 500 watt hours for this. Now, I got a little bit impatient about getting solar panels for this. I saw some online. There were all kinds of different manufacturers that with small solar panels. These are relatively small, just the right size to kind of match up with this. This will charge at about 107 watts. So if it's fully drained, charge it up. If you use the charger that came with it that plugged into the wall, you'll get a nice consistent, roughly 107 watts. So it'll take you about 5 hours to charge it up from all the way flat to fully charged. With solar panels, you get similar performance as long as the solar panels are getting plenty of sun. So if they're not getting the sun's not as good, the solar panels aren't aimed exactly the right direction to optimize sunshine, then it might take a little bit longer than that. So I bought 2 of these Harbor Freight solar panels, which I could connect in parallel, and therefore potentially get better performance when the sun conditions are not ideal. Now, this won't take more than about 107 watts to charge it up. And so if these are together putting out more than that, that's okay. It's not going to damage this, but what it will do is just allow me to maintain kind of the full power that can go into this, even when the panels are not at their optimal. So these could be like at 50% each of what they could, the full potential, and I would still get the 100 watts or so going into here. So let me just talk about these panels, because I know some folks were curious about that. I got them from Harbor Freight. And so why did I get them from Harbor Freight instead of some of these other online retailers that I saw and all the different manufacturers that are out there? I was just impatient. I didn't want to wait for something to arrive and be shipped in a few days. I just want to go down to Harbor Freight and just, come home and have something I could use immediately. I couldn't necessarily use it immediately because the connector is a little bit unusual. So the typical connector from Harbor Freight uses this kind of connection. I believe this is just referred to as an SAE connector. So very simple, very straightforward, and with the color coding on the wires here, it's very easy to know which is the positive wire, the red one, and which is the negative wire, the black one, and then you can tell that your polarity is correct, and that's great. So this one has a connector on it that's an SAE connector. Now, a lot of solar panels do not have the SAE connector. They have something called an MC4 connector, and the MC4 connector looks somewhat like this. So they're nice, they're easy to connect, they're weatherproof. That's great. And if your solar panel has an MC4 connector on it, then it's kind of universal. You can find a lot of connections between the solar panels and connecting to different things you have. So that's the great thing about MC4. But from Harbor Freight, it's the SAE connector. And the SAE connector is something I've seen aside from Harbor Freight solar panels, maybe RVs. So for example, if you have a camper, a trailer, and you want to plug it into your car so that when you step on the brakes in your car, it lights up the brake lights on the back of the trailer. That's where you would find a lot of these SAE type connectors. They're potentially weather resistant, but they're not quite as tight as those MC4 connectors. But I'll work with it anyway because I kind of like those. I've seen guys, and you might look online and you might have seen videos where guys take a Harbor Freight panel like this and they just go down there to the end where it's this SAE connector, and they just cut that off and get a little kit with MC4 connectors, and they just replace this with MC4 connectors, and all of a sudden it's compatible with all their other solar stuff. I don't know. But I decided to go ahead and get some adapters. And specifically, I wanted an adapter that would allow me to go from this into the 8mm or 7.9mm barrel connector right here. This is the kind that's a perfect fit to go into the back of this Anker power station box that I have. So this was pretty simple. I could connect these, and I could see just by looking at the connection that I was maintaining the the positive to positive and the negative to negative connection. However, when you're working with things and you're it's a sort of a do-it-yourself thing, it's always a good idea to double check what's coming out of this connector. So I would highly recommend, if you don't have one already, go get yourself a little multimeter like this. You get the one from Harbor Freight, sometimes with a coupon, you get that for free. And so I've got this set to measure my DC volts, because this is direct current right now. And all I'm going to do with this is I'm going to connect the negative lead to the outside of this barrel, and then I'm going to touch the positive lead to the tip on the inside. And that, if I get a positive readout on my voltage here, that means it's correctly, the polarity is correct. I can plug that into the Anker box with confidence, knowing that I have not reversed the polarity and I'm not going to do something to damage the box. So I'll just do a quick test here, touch that there, and indeed it is showing a positive voltage coming off of this. Now, a couple things to keep in mind about this solar panel. Relatively lightweight and relatively small, but this is kind of the size you're going to find for 100 watt panels. Now this is considered by specifications to be a 12 volt 100 watt panel. But when there's no load on it, like I just did that test right now with my multimeter, it actually came out to over 22 volts coming out here. So why would a 12 volt panel be putting out 22 volts? Actually, this is somewhat typical for solar panels like this. So you just want to make sure that when you're putting together a system with solar panels, that you're matching the output voltage with what's going to go inside your to feed the power into your batteries. So why would it say it's 12 volts when it's actually 22 volts? That's with no load. Once you put a load on it and you're starting to pull the power out of this, that voltage is going to go down a little bit. So the voltage is going to kind of be up and down all around. That's why you need a charge controller to take the electricity that's coming out of these wires and kind of, massage that down to the right specifications for the box. The most important thing to match is voltage. Now this box here can take an input voltage anywhere from, I believe it's 12 volts up to 28 volts. So this is right in the zone to be a good match for that. Now it's limited on the number of watts or the number of amps that it can take from a solar panel like this. But that's okay. I want you to think of it the way you would if you're just using something you plug into the wall in your house. For example, a night light that might only use 2 or 3 watts. These days they're very, very low wattage, a night light. Or maybe an iPhone charger, just a simple one that only uses 8 or 10 watts. Okay, and you're plugging that into the same outlet that you would plug in a power tool or a hair dryer, something that uses a lot more watts, but it's the same voltage. So as long as the voltage is the same, the device will be fine. It's meant to work with that voltage. There was a forum for Blue Eddy users on Facebook, and someone made a very good point when they kind of drew the analogy or made the comparison. They said, when it comes to voltage versus watts, voltage is pushed out towards your device. Watts are pulled in by your device. And think of it this way. Whenever you go like by a substation or some manufacturing facility that has lots of electrical stuff on the outside, boxes, switches, big levers, big all that stuff, and it might say danger, high voltage. Okay, it never says danger, high wattage. Okay, so think of it that way. The wattage is not the dangerous part. The voltage is the part that could be dangerous if you're not well matched to your system. So make sure you get the voltage right. Everything else will be fine. So my little example with the nightlight versus the power tools or the hair dryer. The nightlight, it needs 120 volts because it's designed for that, but it only needs to pull from the system 2 or 3 watts. Whereas the hair dryer wants to pull from the system 1,500 watts or something big like that. So it's what it's pulling out of the system that's going to make the device is going to decide how much to pull, but the voltage needs to be right. So this actually is the right voltage. Now, what I can do with this, when I pair it up with the other solar panel, there are 2 ways you can connect it. You can connect in series or in parallel. In parallel means that you've taken the positive connection from each solar panel and you've connected the 2 positives together. And you've taken the negative and you've connected the 2 negatives together. So then you get back to just 1 negative and 1 positive, but you're pulling, and so the voltage when you're in parallel will stay the same, but the amount of watts you're pulling could be double because you've connected it in parallel. When you connect in series, then you add the voltage. So if it's like under no load, it's say 20 volts coming off here, and I connect in series to that one, now I'm up to 40 volts. 40 volts would be too much for that device there, and that would potentially damage that device. And maybe it just wouldn't work at all and it'd be fine, or maybe it would actually damage the device. So if I'm going to connect these 2 with the intention of putting them into that box, I need to go parallel, which doubles the wattage, but leaves the voltage the same. So I have a little connector for that very purpose right here. Very simple. It's got the SAE connectors on each end, 2 on this side. So I could take this one here, connect it there, and now that is going to interface with this one, and now they're parallel. I bought the right connector for a parallel connection. Now I take these 2 that are combined in parallel and hook them up to here, okay, this way, and now I've got the right connection on here to put into here, and that's going to charge with potentially double the energy that these would do separately. And again, since either one of these would be right at the limit of what this can pull in to charge it up under optimal conditions, the only reason I would want to put these together is if my conditions are not optimal. It's a nice bright sunny day today. If it were cloudy and the output from these panels were lower, then that's where doubling them up in parallel would be a good idea. As the sun gets lower in the sky, that parallel connection would also be beneficial to keep this thing charging at its full potential and full speed. So anyway, folks, I wanted to interrupt this video just for a moment to let you know I've seen videos from other folks where they talk about solar panels, and they talk about things like this box here, And many of them say those videos are sponsored, and that the people that manufacture this stuff gave them things for free in exchange for them making videos about, about their stuff. And in case you're curious, just wanted you to know, nobody gave me anything for free. I did my research and I bought this stuff. Now maybe I could have tried to convince someone, I've got a popular YouTube channel, you should give me something free and I'll review it. I didn't ask anyone to do that, and no one offered to do that. So if someone does offer that in the future, I might have a hard time turning down an offer like that. But just for now, and until further notice, nobody gives me free stuff to do reviews on YouTube. Not Harbor Freight, not Anker, not Casio, not anybody. Just wanted to make that clear, since if you've been watching videos about this stuff, you've probably seen a lot of videos where people said the video was sponsored. This one's not sponsored, although sometimes right in the middle of a video, there might be a commercial, you know, automatically placed by YouTube. See, and that commercial placed by YouTube, that's their doing, and I don't necessarily get paid for that. And I didn't pick those commercials or anything. All right, back to my video. A word on these panels. Okay, these are from Harbor Freight. They're about $129. But you can often find a coupon. So you can often find them for, you know, like a $20 coupon, so you get them for $110 or, you know, $109. Sometimes you get an even better coupon than that. You might get these down for closer to $100 each. So that's very comparable to prices you would find online from other manufacturers for very similar products. But again, if you don't want to wait for them to arrive, you might want to go down to Harbor Freight and just pick up one of these. Nice thing about this, it's you know, got a nice aluminum metal frame. It feels really sturdy. This connection on the back feels pretty sturdy. It all feels really good. That's a good stout wire. I like all this stuff about it. And it's got these two little built-in legs for a simple stand. It may not be the optimal angle, but at least it works. And if you're camping, that's an easy way to deploy that at an angle. You can angle it towards the sun. If you want to prop it up against a chair and get a little bit more precise angle, you know, to get perpendicular to the sun there, you know, the angle at which the sunshine is coming towards you. So very simple, very straightforward, relatively strong. And so yeah, that's how that is. Now, I should show you one other product from Harbor Freight. I couldn't resist. This is what they consider to be their portable solar panel. Okay, and it's kind of heavy. It's made of sturdy metal. It's got a metal frame. It's you know, it's not necessarily something you would kind of fold up and stick in the back of your trunk. You know, you got to make some room for it. But it's a little bit smaller, maybe perhaps a little bit easier to tote around than one of these other guys. And let me show you how this works. It has this, it's a pretty good fabric carrying case there. So, you know, got that there. And then it has a couple clips here to hold it together, but then you can unfold it like this. And then you have these legs that kind of fold out here so that you can deploy this and angle it down on the ground. So it's actually two panels that are connected in parallel to each other with just one wire coming out of it. And this one, even though, let me this one also is based on the SAE connector coming off of it, but this one actually came with this little tiny adapter right here, and this goes from SAE to the same size 7.9 millimeter barrel DC adapter, or I guess maybe some would call it an 8 millimeter right there. So this, if I had purchased this, I wouldn't have to buy any extra adapters or anything. I could have plugged this directly into the Anker box. I don't know. So I don't know why this one came with exactly the plug I needed. Those other two, I had to go online and buy a couple of little adapters there, and maybe that negated the coupon value. I bought those with coupons, and then I went online and paid a little bit money for the adapters, but it all worked out, and it's all working okay. So basically what I can do with all of this, I guess I could get another adapter if I wanted to, and connect all three of these to each other in parallel to maintain the same voltage. And then it could be a really cloudy day, and I'd have 3 times the potential of power going into my Anker box. But I think what I'll do is I'll just judiciously use these, probably maybe around the house. I'll use these two together, and if I really do want to go out and about, go camping or wherever, just be out far away from the grid, maybe I'll just rely on this fold-up one all by itself to power my Anker box. So in summary, make sure you've matched the voltage for whatever solar panel you're going to use with the voltage that is that your box here is made to accept. And then if you exceed the wattage, that's okay, because it's just like that nightlight you plugged in. The wattage coming from the wall exceeds what the nightlight can use, but as long as the voltage is okay, the nightlight's not going to draw any more than it needs to, just as this is not going to draw any more than it needs to, even if these panels are providing more than what they need. Also, again, if you're going to start playing around with these, doesn't cost very much. Get yourself a multimeter so that before you connect things, you can just double check and make sure that your polarity is correct. You've got the negative where it needs to be and the positive connector where it needs to be. And then you should be okay. Now, what if I plugged that all in and I tested it and the polarity was wrong? Oh, well, a lot of these things, when you buy little adapters and little kits and extra cables and things with this SAE type connectors, they will come with a little adapter that looks like this. And what this does is it reverses the polarity in the connection you've made. So, typically, again, you just plug it in like that. Okay, that's great. That's the connection you need. But then you decided, you tested it, it was the wrong polarity. You put this in the middle between these two connectors, and what that does is it reverses the polarity. So if you're going to use that polarity reverser, just use your meter and make sure that you're doing it the right way, and make sure that what's coming out the other end has the proper polarity, positive to positive, negative to negative. And once again, this tip here that plugs into my Anker device, this outside of the barrel, that's negative. The tip on the inside, that's positive. And as long as I'm getting the right reading on my voltmeter, negative, positive in the middle, I should be just fine plugging into that box. All right, those are just some of the basics of solar panels. I'm using the Harbor Freight solar panels as an example here. But one of the things that has taken my time away from making more YouTube videos these last few weeks is I've gone a little bit beyond this already. I bought some solar panels that are bigger than this, almost double the output per solar panel. And I bought a bunch of them because I think I told you in a previous video, I was thinking about making the family playhouse an off-grid playhouse as far as electricity is concerned. So I needed to buy the right kind of solar panels that would fit on the roof. And then I needed to buy some kind of charge controller, batteries, and inverter to bring that power from the panels and turn it into electricity I could use inside our family playhouse. And the process has already begun. I've made great strides, and that means there's going to be a series of videos coming up where I'm going to talk about what I did to make an off-grid playhouse for the family. So so I've done all the hard work. I've spent all that time doing it. Now I need to spend the time making videos about it. And I hope that'll be interesting to you. One thing I've found, Sometimes I get interested in a topic and I want to do a thing, and I go looking around on YouTube, see if there's a video that somebody did what I want to do. And sometimes there's people who did something similar to what I want to do, but not exactly like I wanted to do. So I got to watch a bunch of videos in order to get all the information, pull it together in order to figure out exactly what I want to do. And so if you're not interested in doing exactly what I've done to put solar panels on the family playhouse, maybe you can at least get some ideas of what you want to do, and I can share some of the information I learned doing this setup, and maybe you can adapt that to what you want to do. All right, so anyway, that's videos coming up. Yes, I'm back. And all I want to do is keep making these videos and sharing what I've learned with you. So I hope you'll be back here very soon.